Hey guys, you've heard of the Young Turks podcast because you're listening to it right now. But make sure that you subscribe and give it a 5-star rating if you like it. Thank you for listening. All right, welcome to the Young Turks. Cenk, Uygur, and Kasparian with you guys. Bernie's still in the race. Okay.
Sort of.
No, not sort of, definitely. At least for another week, let's keep it real. And so it's been a hell of a 2 weeks. That was a unbelievable, fairly horrific turnaround. We'll talk about it throughout the show, of course, and different stories that we have for you guys on Bernie and Biden. And Anna was about to tell you, but since I'm already talking, Sunday we're doing a debate. We're not the ones participating in the debate. Christy wouldn't show up. No, I'm kidding. Old school.
I was about to give you crap for not being good at these live reads, but you saved the day with that one.
Oh,
good
okay,
job, Cenk.
yeah.
Good job.
Well, I didn't know I was bad at it. Okay, anyway, me, John, and Adrian are gonna host the Sunday debate at 7 o'clock Pacific, 10 o'clock Eastern. It's the so-called Arizona debate on Sunday night. Mano a mano, Bernie Sanders versus Joe Biden. At least one more time. Uno mas.
So Sunday is family day for me, and it's important. I don't like to sacrifice it, but I really want to be here. So I'm not going to be on the show, but I might just be here because I desperately want to watch.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, so
okay.
we'll see. But I also want to note that we always provide extra exclusive content on special nights for our members. So the first hour of our coverage will be open to the public, but the rest of it will only be available to our members. You can become a member by going to tyt.com/join.
So one last thing about that. I call it so-called Arizona debate because on Tuesday night, next Tuesday night, yes, you have Arizona, but you also have Florida and Illinois and Ohio. So 4 giant states. Next Tuesday will definitely decide it, but Sunday might decide it depending on how Biden performs in the debate. And as we're going to tell you here in 1 second, Bernie's laid out a couple of challenges. Ooh, drama.
Sort of. I think that he's actually messaging what Biden needs to do to unify the party, and I think that he's also offering a layup here. But we'll talk about that.
All right, let's see what happens.
Yeah. All right, you want to do it?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay.
So, following a not so great night for Bernie Sanders in the primary election against Joe Biden, Sanders decided to address his supporters and also, in my opinion, give Joe Biden a message in regard to what he needs to do in the next Democratic debate in order to unify Democratic voters. That means to unify Bernie Sanders supporters with Biden supporters. With that said, let's take a quick look at how he started the speech. And I think this is an incredibly important part that the mainstream media, for some reason, pretends doesn't exist. But this is what his top priority is. Take a look.
Let me begin by reiterating what I have said from day one of this campaign. And that is that Donald Trump is the most dangerous president in the modern history of our country, and he must be defeated. Tragically, we have a president today who is a pathological liar and who is running a corrupt administration. He clearly does not understand the Constitution of the United States and thinks that he is a president who is above the law. In my view, he is a racist, a sexist, a homophobe, a xenophobe, and a religious bigot, and he must be defeated, and I will do everything in my power to make that happen.
So I think that part of his speech is important because he is signaling to the establishment and also to his voters that it's important that we defeat Donald Trump. And I'm willing to do anything and everything to make that happen, even if Biden ends up being the nominee. And to be honest with you, for the remainder of the speech, he makes it clear that he thinks that Biden is likely to be the nominee. And he also talks about what Biden needs to do and what he needs to address in order to appeal to Sanders supporters. And make no mistake, he needs Bernie's supporters in order to defeat Donald Trump. So look, I'm gonna give you evidence for why I think that, but go ahead, Cenk.
Yeah, so I think first of all, I like that he started with that assuages some of the mainstream media. And yes, somebody went on CNN and was like, well, okay, good. At least he wants to beat Donald Trump. Of course, he wants to beat Donald Trump. Of course, he does. Trump's a monster. I hate that they pretend that that's an open question. But all right, so good, he addresses that. Number two, this whole unification with the Biden side is both obvious and nonsensical at the same time. It's obvious because I hope we all want to beat Trump. I want to beat Trump desperately. On the other hand, it's nonsensical because Biden can change his rhetoric, and he will because he's a politician. It doesn't mean a damn thing. He's not going to do any of those things. So we're playing an empty game here. The real game is, can Biden stay on his feet for 2 hours on Sunday night? He has the lowest bar ever in political history. He just has to not melt down and walk off the stage. And if he can avoid a meltdown, yes, he will likely be the nominee, and it's over, right? But I'd like to see him mano a mano, speak for an hour of the 2 hours, and see how he does. We should all see how he does, because he's gonna have to do that with Trump several times, and for 8 straight months, he's gonna have to carry this party. God help us all.
Look, I absolutely agree with you, and I don't think that this is a done deal. So don't misrepresent or misinterpret what I'm trying to say. But at the same time, I do genuinely believe that Bernie's top priority is to beat Donald Trump. And I think what he's doing right now is setting the foundation necessary to unify Democratic voters in order to make that happen, in case he doesn't win the nomination.
Yeah, sure, of course.
So with that said, I wanna go to video A3 because this is where he starts talking about how his progressive policies certainly resonate with the majority of voters, but there's this one issue that voters are most concerned about, and that's why Biden right now is beating him delegate-wise. Take a look.
Today, I say to the Democratic establishment, in order to win in the future, you need to win the voters who represent the future of our country, and you must speak to the issues of concern to them. You cannot simply be satisfied by winning the votes of people who are older. While our campaign has won the ideological debate, we are losing the debate over electability. I cannot tell you how many people our campaign has spoken to who have said, and I quote, "I like what your campaign stands for. I agree with what your campaign stands for, but I'm going to vote for Joe Biden because I think Joe is the best candidate to defeat Donald Trump." End of quote. We have heard that statement all over this country. Needless to say, I strongly disagree with that assertion. But that is what millions of Democrats and independents today believe.
Look, all of those never Trumpers and establishment Democrats who are angry and enraged at Bernie Sanders for refusing to drop out right now. The same people who are saying, no, the Sunday debate needs to be canceled. We shouldn't do it. Bernie is being terrible for not dropping out right now. Understand, listen to what he's saying. Please, I know that a lot of you get paid millions of dollars for your bad political analysis on cable television. But for a moment, just sit down, put your thinking cap on, and listen to what he's saying. Because what he is essentially saying right now is, my policies are popular, but people are worried that I'm not electable, I can't beat Donald Trump. They think that Biden can beat Donald Trump. So in order for Biden to actually beat Donald Trump, he needs to appeal to my voters. He needs to appeal to my supporters. And so then what he does is he provides a cheat sheet. He's like, I'm looking forward to this debate. And then he starts listing things that Biden needs to study up on and be prepared to answer in the debates. Go ahead.
Okay, so before we get to that cheat sheet, first of all, I actually thought that was perfect.
Yes.
Because number one, he's being honest and admitting we lost the argument over who's more electable. We lost it. Sad day for us. And that's true. He did lose it. And is it because it's true? No, as he acknowledged, it's not true. But and we know why. It's the media. The media said it 1,000 times. It didn't matter if it was true or not. And they did mass propaganda. So I'm going to get to that in a second as well. But he's like, look, we won the ideological battle. It's true. He's won the younger voters in overwhelming numbers. We talked about this last night. The same numbers in Missouri and Michigan. Roughly speaking, 70% of voters that are over the age of 45 voted for Biden. 70% of the voters that are under the age of 45 voted for Sanders. Have you ever seen a divide that stark ever in American politics? I don't know that I have. That means, yes, the Democratic Party leadership and establishment is still winning because older voters vote more, that's true, and they're holding on to that power for now. But tick, 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 tick. So the voters under 45 are all on our side. So what Sanders is saying is, you better address those guys, otherwise you're gonna lose the party altogether, and you might even lose this election. Now, how does the media respond to that? New York Times has an article, headline, the media, young voters, Sanders spreads the blame for his decline.
I can't. It's like they want to lose. Like their heads are so far up their own asses that they don't understand that their own thinking will cost them this upcoming general election. And that's the frustrating thing. Again, just sit down for a second, okay? Like relax and listen to what he's saying. Because what you're about to hear in this next clip is a cheat sheet for Joe Biden. The question is he gonna listen to it?
Sorry, one last one before the cheat sheet. Subheading for the New York Times article. As Bernie Sanders has seen his fortunes slide, he has cited a number of factors that portray him as an aggrieved outsider.
I can't stand these people. I can't, they're.
And they can't see how biased they are. It's amazing.
No. They're really like the professional reporters.
They're very objective,
you know?
That's right. Objectively, you should be against Bernie Sanders, said the objective person.
Yeah.
Okay.
With that said, here's Bernie Sanders offering a cheat sheet to Joe Biden.
On Sunday, I very much look forward to the debate in Arizona with my friend Joe Biden. And let me be very frank as to the questions that I will be asking Joe. Joe, what are you going to do for the 500,000 people who go bankrupt in our country because of medically related debt? And what are you going to do for the working people of this country and small business people who are paying on average 20% of their incomes for health care? Joe, what are you going to do to end the absurdity of the United States of America being the only major country on earth where health care is not a human right?
So he goes on and on lists.
Yeah, it's a lengthy list.
Right. Now, he's doing two things there. Yes, you're right. It's a softball. He's like, Joe, it looks like you're gonna be the nominee. Can you at least have your staff come up with answers in time for Sunday for these questions so that you could unite the party, Joe?
So
okay.
You can earn votes that you need to defeat Donald Trump.
There is no person who'd like to win a debate who tells their strategy ahead of time. Okay, now, having said that, this is also one of the few opportunities that Sanders has left where the press is still paying attention. The minute he drops out, they're all screaming at him, drop out. The minute he drops out, they're like, he's irrelevant. Never speak to him again. Don't bother having him on. Don't ever cover any of his speeches, right? So this is one of the few remaining speeches, if things remain normal, that he'll have left. So he's laying out great questions that no one has answers to. And by the way, Joe Biden can take a year to figure out the answers. He's still not gonna have them. His system would still bankrupt 500,000 people, 100% guaranteed, it's a fact. And everybody in the media is hunky-dory about it. They're high-fiving over it. They're like, we saved some taxes. Other people are gonna get bankrupt, who cares? Bernie Sanders, drop out, okay? You're a aggrieved person. Okay, so yeah, but that's his platform, and I love that he plugged it one more time. And maybe the media, people in the media, this is of course not their job. Their job is not to do journalism, it's not to be inquisitive, it's to do propaganda on behalf of the establishment. Maybe they could actually listen to those questions, and if you're an editor at the New York Times, maybe you could put someone on it like, hey, wait, how come none of us have ever asked Joe Biden that question?
They know why they haven't asked that. They know they want to give him the upper hand. Whatever, look, we know what they are, we know what their objectives are and their agenda is. But the point that I'm trying to make is, look, Biden and the establishment need to understand that Bernie Sanders supporters aren't just going to tuck tail and vote for whoever the Democratic nominee is. Some people might find that gross, some people might disagree with that, but hey, that's democracy, right? And so people want to feel that they're going to the polls, they're taking time out of their day to wait in a long line to vote for someone who's going to, in the very least, represent some of their best interests. And if Joe Biden doesn't make that case, voters are not going to show up, okay? We're going to have a repeat of 2016, mark my words. And I'm not saying that to threaten people or insult people. I'm saying that because it's just the fact of the matter. And so what is he gonna do to reach out to those voters? Because simply doing a quick speech on the night of a primary election and saying, we welcome you, come join us, is not enough. The immediate response to that is, but why? But why? Why are we gonna join you? What are you offering to progressive voters who want someone to offer something to vote for, not just someone to vote against?
Maybe he could have only 4 major bankers in his cabinet rather than the 5 that he's planning right now.
I mean, that's at least a start.
So when we talk about the debates, and when I say the media's never asked him this, it's a literal question in terms, or a little statement in terms of at least the debates. Remember, you've seen with your own eyes, the moderators ask about at least a half a dozen, might be a dozen times, how are you gonna pay for Medicare for all? Every debate, how are you gonna pay for it? How are you gonna pay for it? Reinforcing the frame that it's really expensive, when in reality, it costs less money than this current system. But have you ever seen a single moderator ask any of the moderates, do you have a plan to address the 500,000 people who go bankrupt every year because of medical bills? Now, I could come up with a dozen questions like that about healthcare. Do you have a plan to save the lives of the 68,000 people who die every single year because they don't have insurance? Or are you planning on letting them die? Now, that's a very harsh question, but it's real. But they would never ask that of a moderate because they'd say, oh, that's rude. It's not rude when you ask super hard questions of progressives framed in a negative way, but they don't even consider the idea of asking a question from not a progressive perspective, just one that is a factual question in that regard that is challenging to the moderate position. It's unthinkable for the New York Times, for any moderator at any of these debates, and then they wonder why we think they're not reaching out enough. So finally, to what Anna's saying, I love the moment when the primaries are over because we instantly here at the Young Turks become the most powerful people in America.
What?
Because immediately the Democratic establishment thinks it's our responsibility to get everyone to vote for the establishment candidate.
No, sorry, that's not my job.
And if we don't do that, it's not the establishment candidate's fault. That poor guy just happens to be the candidate, right? It's that it wouldn't be his responsibility, obviously.
Right.
It's all of a sudden our responsibility to put on pom-poms and go, J-O-E, Joe. And drive all of you to vote for Joe Biden. And by the way, I asked some of my friends, colleagues, etc. So if you think it's my responsibility entirely, which is hilarious, how do you expect me to do that? Because Joe Biden does not have any policies we agree with. He just doesn't. He's against Medicare for all. He's against Green New Deal. He's not prioritized getting money out of politics at all. In fact, he swims in money in politics. Doesn't want to do Wall Street regulation. He's going to put in 4 to 5 cabinet members who are from Wall Street, etc. So, is your request of me to lie to my audience and then overnight all of a sudden say, you know what? I decided that Joe Biden is a fantastic candidate. Not only should you vote for him against Donald Trump, which I think I would vote for any Democrat against Donald Trump, and I'll tell you that 1,000 times. But apparently I'm supposed to get you excited about that.
No, that's not.
I mean,
that's not our job. And if that hurts your feelings, then you can screw off, okay? Because I'm not, here's my plan moving forward, okay? I'm gonna vote with my conscience. And I'm gonna ask my audience to also vote with their conscience. But I'm not gonna judge people, I'm not gonna go after people if they don't vote the way that I feel is the best way to vote. That's not my job. It's not my job to make a case for Biden. It's Biden's job to make a case for Biden.
And
period.
last thing on that. So look, you guys, we share our perspective. We're honest about it. I'm going to vote for a Democrat against Trump. There's no question about it. You guys do what you want. I don't. You actually know best. I don't actually control you. Okay, you control yourself. Even though the established media apparently doesn't believe that, and established Democrats don't believe that. But
it is funny though how they think we're complete and utter trash, right? And they're so dismissive of us until this situation occurs. Then all of a sudden, look at how influential they are. They absolutely need to do exactly what we want them to do. No, I have no respect for you. I don't care what you want us to do.
But the last thing I was going to add is, look at their view of the media. Their view of the media is your job is to do propaganda. If your real opinion is that Joe Biden is not exciting, do not tell your audience that. Tell your audience something you don't believe because you must help the Democrats win.
No.
That is not how media is supposed to work. But they all believe that so much, which betrays them, which tells you, no, they actually think the media is propaganda. Democratic establishment thinks that, and so does the establishment media. That's why they get mad at us for not joining in on their propaganda. That's just amazing.
Well, something to think about while we go to break. But when we come back, we're gonna show you what it was like to vote in places like North Dakota and Missouri. There are some real serious issues with the difficulty of voting these days. And then later on in the show, we're gonna make fun of Jeff Sessions. That's gonna be my favorite part. We'll be back.
We need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom. In each episode of the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be, featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity. The UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, you must unlearn what you have learned. And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFTR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
All right, back on the Young Turks. Alan writes in, Cenk and I felt the sadness that you shared upon learning of Bernie's losses. I love your honesty and the thoroughness with which you research all the information that you share. TYT forever. Thank you, Alan. Thank you for being a member. Thank you for writing that in. By the way, Bernie Sanders, if you missed the end of last night's coverage, did win North Dakota, and currently with at least 2/3 of the vote reporting in Washington, has a slim lead in Washington as well. So he might have won 2 out of the 6 states. So don't think that it was a complete blowout. So Captain Cornball says Bernie's statement was great. He had his game face on. He called his shots on Biden for Sunday night. If Biden isn't really well prepared, Bernie will roll him over. You know, that's a good point. I mean, after someone calls the shots and you're still not prepared, that's also a terrible sign if that's what happens Sunday night.
It's like a high school teacher telling the class like, hey, here's the printout of the exact quiz I'm gonna give you tomorrow. So just make sure you're prepared for it, right?
Yeah.
So like, prepare for it. Like, I don't get it.
And they might prepare. By the way, apparently another reputation of Joe Biden is that he's lazy. So great, okay, but
look, if he's not able to make his case, and if he flops during this debate, then awesome. I mean, who knows? I mean, the primaries aren't over yet.
Yes, that's right.
So let's just keep that in mind.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if he is arrogant and doesn't prepare, or he prepares but can't remember anything, then you have your answer. Brenda Corn says, without Medicare for all, I probably won't live to see the next election cycle. I honestly don't know what to do with what will probably be my last vote now. That's obviously incredibly sad. But when we talk about hang in there, first of all,
yes,
and get well. When we talk about 68,000 people who die every year because they don't have insurance, it's real. It's not just a stat. It's not a number on a sheet. Picture 68,000 people. They actually do die. And then, of course, for the folks who are insured, they still have massive issues with deductibles, getting bankrupted, et cetera. Eddie O'Donnell Rose says, I don't like Biden and I'm supporting Bernie until the end, but if he's the nominee, I'll vote for him. The kids in cages need Trump out. I also don't have the luxury of a protest vote or abstention. Now, Eddie, I'm in that camp. I agree with you, but everybody's got their own camps and they'll get to whatever conclusions they get to in due time. And then finally on YouTube super chat, I've been watching for 8 years now. Love you guys from Canada. So that's Purple Daisies. Purple Daisies, thank you. And yesterday we were trying to get to 150,000 for tyt.com/go. It didn't look like we were gonna get there. Let's see where we are now. 153,599. You guys are the best. Can I see 160? Can I see 160? Okay, trying to get to 200,000 every single month because that's what we need to be sustainable. Barely. So thank you for everyone who participates. We love you. And look, maybe in today's post game, I'll talk about how, when we were having an internal conversation about what's next for the progressive movement. And I actually found a bunch of upsides if Bernie loses. So let's discuss that in the post game for the members. tyt.com/join. It'll be Operation Lighthouse.
Cool. You'll have some upsides. I want to show like a 14-year-old video of TYT to show that nothing changes.
Okay. You'll enjoy that, members.
Yeah, it'll be great.
What's next?
All right, so it is becoming more and more difficult for Americans to cast their ballots, to participate in the democratic process, and to vote. And nothing made that clearer than what people were experiencing last night. In fact, in North Dakota, people had a hard time voting because the lines were incredibly long and there were a number of voting places that were shut down, which made it difficult for people to even find a place to go cast their ballots. So apparently Grand Forks, North Dakota had one polling place for a town of 57,000 people. Imagine that, 57,000 people and there's one place to vote, but it gets worse than that. Christopher Ingram, who is a data reporter for the Washington Post, wrote via Twitter, long lines being reported at some Democratic primary locations in North Dakota. There are only 14 locations for the entire state. Only one location in Fargo, a city of 120,000 people.
It's absurd. By the way, Chris Ingram's actually a great reporter at the Washington Post. He actually does his job right and brings you amazing information I didn't know. So about politics. So including this, I'm tired of the lines. People like romanticize the lines. Oh my God, people care so much about democracy, there's lines. No, that just means you don't have enough polling stations and enough machines or whatever that particular state uses to count the votes or to register the votes. You know how much more it costs to have more machines? Not that much. I mean, compared to what the other things that we spend money on at the state level, it's next to nothing. So why do we have lines at all? We should have so many voting areas and voting machines that we never have lines. And people should complain, hey, don't we have too many of these? And they're all so empty all the time because they're so easy to get through. Because we want people to vote.
Right.
It's called a democracy.
We should make it incredibly easy for people to vote in every way, right? So we should consider whether caucuses make sense because obviously it could only be accomplished by certain demographics. If you're young, if you're a single mom, if you have a full-time job and if you have a wage job and you're not allowed to leave to go vote or to take part in caucuses, you just can't do it, right? So I think it's undemocratic in that way. I think we should consider the day in which people can vote. We should consider laws that protect people's wages if they decide to take an hour off to go vote. All of these things, like we keep talking about like, oh, we're the greatest democracy in the world. We're the greatest. No, we're not. No, we're not. We did a story about Texas shutting down polling places in minority communities. Gee, I wonder why they did that. No,
it's absurd.
We purposely, I believe, make it difficult for certain demographics to vote and certain types of people to vote, right? We have Republicans who are pretty transparent in their bad faith attempts at carrying out democracy. I mean, they make it difficult through voter ID laws, making it impossible for students to vote if they're studying out of state, all of that stuff. But there's more. There's more disastrous stuff going on throughout the country.
So you mentioned Texas, that was on March 3rd. California was on March 3rd. First of all, California still hasn't stopped counting. There's still 25% that has not reported in California.
Greatest democracy in the world.
That was March 3rd. That was 8 days ago, okay? But I haven't kept track of my guess is they have not awarded all the delegates to Bernie Sanders, so it makes it look like Bernie Sanders is losing by a bigger margin because California just won't count 25% of the votes. It's amazing, ridiculous, preposterous. In California, again, long lines, yes, in minority areas in California 25, there were longer lines, there's less places to vote, and then every once in a while, they'll say, oh, you know what, even if you got in the line by 8 o'clock, we won't let you vote. Then you have to send people over there to harangue them, to tell them it's illegal not to let them vote. For God's sake, let's make this easier. And the reason Republicans don't want to do it is obvious, but notice that the establishment Democrats don't fight that hard on that issue, right? Because if you're wondering why, within primaries, a lot of times, if you make it easier to vote on a college campus, I was on a college campus for the California primary, and people were walking away because the line was too long. I tried to convince them that there's another place down the street. They're like, no, we already tried 3 places. We're sick of it and we got to go to work, okay? So it depends, if there's places where there's older voters, et cetera, establishment Democrats might want more polling areas in those, but it shouldn't be based on who's in power,
right,
which party, et cetera. We should have votes that are easy everywhere. And again, more evidence this time around, not the case.
But if you thought that the information we just shared with you was egregious, get a load of what happened in Kansas City, Missouri. So the mayor of Kansas City, Missouri, went to his polling station. He's voted consistently. He always votes. Shows up to cast his ballot and get a load of the experience that he had.
All right, hey, I'm here at a polling place right now. Get out to vote, exercise your right to vote. We have a presidential primary today in Missouri. No matter who you vote for, no matter which side, it's important that we have our voices heard in every community. I'm here at my poll.
Super excited, he can't wait to vote. He's the mayor, okay? And then after his experience, he tweeted the following: I made a video this morning about the importance of voting and then got turned away because I wasn't in the system, even though I voted there for 11 years, including for myself 4 times. Go figure, but that's okay. We'll be back later today. But it's not okay. It's not okay. It's not even remotely okay. If you've been consistently voting, why are you not on the voter rolls? What's the issue? What's going on?
Yeah, he did later clarify, saying that was his Midwestern way of being snarky and that it definitely was not okay.
No, we don't live in a democracy. We just don't live in a democracy. Can we just acknowledge that and stop pretending?
Yeah, no, it gets frustrating, and these should be super easy to pass. But again, unfortunately, I wish it wasn't the case, but we sound like a broken record because there's 2 problems that constantly come up every single time. One is money in politics, but in this case, it's not that one, it's the second one, the media. Because
they don't care about any of this.
Yeah, because Republicans want less people to vote. That's obvious. That's why they take away voting areas from poor areas, African American areas. They make it so difficult. The purges of the voter rolls, et cetera. Now, the way that they would get punished for that is that the media talked about it a lot. and explain to people it is the Republican Party that does not like voting, that they want less people to vote. That's a fact. That's a fact based on the statistics of how many voter purges they've done and how many voting places they've closed down. But the media won't say that. They basically help the Republicans lie and go, wow, we can't tell. We just can't tell. Progressives are very clear. We want as many voting places as possible, as many voting machines on a Saturday. We've said it 1,000 times, but they'll take that progressive position, which is the most pro-voting position, and they'll take the most anti-voting position, which is the right-wing Republican position, and go, I can't tell, what am I, a journalist? I can't tell, so I'm not gonna tell people who's at fault. I'm just gonna say, I guess we have a problem, and I wish there was a journalist around to figure out whose fault it was.
It's beyond frustrating, but this is what we're dealing with. So for all those reporters out there who treat the experience of all the candidates as if they're on equal footing and this system is fair, just take a good hard look at how people are being suppressed when it comes to their vote, how difficult it is to go out there and exercise, your rights in this democratic process, and how this whole facade of a democracy really needs to be challenged, because this is not the experience that people are having when they go out to cast their ballots.
You know what, last thing, because one side is actually malicious. So for example, in the primaries, the last 2 times around at the presidential level, the progressive candidate Bernie Sanders has not been able to get a higher share of the African American vote. But if you told progressives across the country, would you want to take away voting areas from African American parts of town so that the progressive has a better chance of winning? I think 0 progressives would say yes. We would all say no, we'd scream no, we'd tackle you to make sure that didn't happen. Because we actually care that everyone votes. We don't want to discriminate. We don't want just our voters voting, right? And we believe we have every ability to win over African American voters, even if we haven't yet. By the way, younger African American voters are progressive, older African American voters aren't. But that doesn't mean you should take their vote away, and we would never, ever countenance that. Republicans, on the other hand, go, well, of course take it away. Of course, they're not gonna vote for us, so try to limit their votes as much as humanly possible. So there's a giant difference. It isn't like, oh, well, I mean, obviously the Republicans are doing the right thing by them. Politically, it's not racist. They just politically wanna limit their votes. No, they're malicious. We, on the other hand, say, I don't care who's voting against us. Everyone should vote.
Yeah.
See, that's actually being an honest and decent person. And it's stupid games anyway. Do you know for sure how African Americans are gonna vote in any state, Latinos, etc.? The only people who are sure is Republicans, because they hate those people. They speak out against them all the time. They try to take away their rights, so that's why they don't want them to vote.
When we come back from the break, we'll give you some of the latest attacks against Joe Biden by the Trump campaign, and it just gives you a sense of how they're willing to do anything and everything to defeat their political opponent. We'll be back.
At TYT, we frequently talk about all the ways that big tech companies are taking control of our online lives, constantly monitoring us and storing and selling our data. But that doesn't mean we have to let them. It's possible to stay anonymous online and hide your data from the prying eyes of big tech. And one of the best ways is with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making your active ID more difficult to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network data to protect you from eavesdroppers and cyber criminals. And it's also easy to install. A single mouse click protects all your devices. But listen, guys, this is important. ExpressVPN is rated #1 by CNET and Wired magazine. So take back control of your life online and secure your data with a top VPN solution available, ExpressVPN. And if you go to expressvpn.com/TYT, you can get 3 extra months for free with this exclusive link just for TYT fans. That's expressvpn.com/TYT. Check it out today.
We hope you're enjoying this free clip from the Young Turks. If you want to get the whole show and more exclusive content while supporting independent media, become a member at tyt.com/join today. In the meantime, enjoy this free segment. All right, back on TYT. Super last thing writes in, I live in one of the interior heavily Republican counties in California. I've never had to wait for a vote for more than a couple people ahead of me. Wonder why? On Twitter, Eric writes in, I live in Canada. It's never taken me more than 5 minutes to vote. Canada seems like such a lovely democracy. Tatiana Robbins says, I hate how spread out the primaries are. My state's primaries May 5th. By that time, there's only going to be one candidate. My voice is never heard. I have a friend who was saying the same thing earlier today to me personally. It is definitely frustrating. There's also upsides to the how spread out they are, because then people get to have momentum, build name recognition. I'm not sure that I would want it all in one day, but there's definitely downsides to doing it this way. Tatiana is also one of our members. Thank you for being a member. TYT.com/join, of course. And then finally, YouTube Super Chat. Millennium Pigeon writes in, 2016 politicized me, 2020 radicalized me. I bet you're not alone. So that's powerful. And King Pazzo Criminal 13 writes in, I trust Bernie's honesty. Biden must earn my vote. I think that's fair.
I have to read two tweets. One is from Jess Ortega, who created a fun TYT app avatar or something with my picture. And I have my natural hair color there. And I looked pretty good, my natural. I think I'm gonna let it grow out. Secondly, thank you, Jess. Secondly, Blizzard Fingers 35. I don't know if you're a real person. I see you trolling a lot of Bernie supporters on Twitter, but nonetheless, his comment is, if you cared about your vote and how precious it is, then you'd make time for it, just like sitting around watching YouTube videos. And then, have you ever heard of a thing called mail, meaning mail-in ballots? Yeah, look, we should make it easy for people to vote, including on the day that people are voting, right? So on the day of the primary election, we shouldn't say to voters who are having difficulty voting because it's made purposely difficult to vote, hey, have you ever heard of a thing called mail? No, we should make it easy. That's the point. If we live in a democracy, it should be easy for everyone. It shouldn't be about, vote early or vote via mail. People should be able to show up on the day of the election and have zero difficulty voting, period.
Take that, Blizzard Fingers.
Yeah.
By the way, was Blizzard Fingers 34 taken? Is that why you had to go to Blizzard Fingers 35? I didn't know there were that many Blizzard Fingers in the world. Okay.
Well, if you read the YouTube comments section, there's a lot of Blizzard Fingers out there.
Okay, right. I don't even know what that is. Oh my God, all of a sudden I don't want to know what a Blizzard Finger is.
All right, we gotta go, we have so many stories.
All right, go ahead.
All right, so, as we all know, Joe Biden does have some difficulty saying what he needs to say, okay? Articulating the points that he's trying to make. And this is a vulnerability if he makes it to the general election against Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump does not care about playing fair. He doesn't care about taking videos out of context and playing dirty. And that's exactly what the Trump campaign recently did with a video that featured Joe Biden giving a speech. Now, I want to be clear. What you're about to see is a video of Joe Biden taken out of context. So it is dishonest. But that is what you can expect from the Trump campaign. I'm gonna show you the edited video, and then I'm gonna show you what the full video actually said. Take a look.
Turn this primary from a campaign that's about negative attacks into one about what we're for, because we cannot get reelected. We cannot win this reelection. Excuse me, we can only reelect Donald Trump.
So that was obviously taken out of context, but it wasn't, the part you watched wasn't edited in a deceptive way. It just took the video, the full video, and cut it before the part where Joe Biden corrected himself. So here's what the full video looked like.
Turn this primary from a campaign that's about negative attacks into one about what we're for, because we cannot get reelected. We cannot win this reelection. Excuse me, we can only reelect Donald Trump if in fact we get engaged in this circular firing squad here. It's got to be a positive campaign, so join us.
So I have to confess that at first I retweeted what Trump said and said, look at Trump attacking, like the story we're doing here. We told you he didn't attack on Biden's mental state. And as soon as I found out that there was a rest of the sentence, I took it down anyway, okay? But he is attacking on that. And it's important that they include the whole context of the sentence because he doesn't just end on we should reelect Donald Trump. That's why it's deceptive. On the other hand, you just saw it twice. It wasn't great in its full context. So if that was the first time that he stumbled, people stumble all the time. We stumble all the time, it's not a big deal. But he does it all the time and he loses his train of thought. It's easy pickings. So in this case, I don't know if Trump did he didn't need to deceptively edit it. He could have run the whole thing and still made the same point. And then now people are bashing Trump for deceptively editing it. On the other hand,
Trump
because
doesn't
of
care. Trump
number one,
care
he doesn't care about that at all.
No,
but I was gonna say it might benefit him more because it's gotten more media attention because they deceptively edited it, right? Again, not really edited, they just cut it short.
So I don't really know what the solution to all of this is because you're not gonna change Trump's behavior. Trump is Trump and there's no amount of shaming from the establishment, Democratic establishment that's gonna convince him that he needs to be moral in anything, including this upcoming election. On the other hand, I'm frustrated at both the media and corporate Democrats for propping up Biden because they hate Bernie so much. And the way that they propped Biden up is by claiming that he's the most electable. But if you really looked at the facts and the way Biden has carried himself throughout this primary, you know that's not true. And you know that he's vulnerable, not only due to the gaffes and the mistakes when he's giving his speeches, but also when it comes to his own voting record. So my question to the Biden campaign is, and to corporate Democrats is, what are you going to do to mitigate these vulnerabilities moving forward?
There's nothing they can do. Look, let's keep it real. They're not going to change their policies. And even if they did rhetorically pivot, it's just rhetoric to win the election. You have to look at their record, and their record indicates they wouldn't be progressive under penalty of law. And Biden's not pivoting at all. He told Lawrence O'Donnell, as we covered on the show yesterday, no, Medicare for all, even if it made it all the way to his desk, he'd basically veto it. There's no hope in that regard. And is Joe Biden all of a sudden is he, it's funny now, you see that? People do stumble every once in a while. Is he going to regain his sharpness? That is unlikely. Is he all of a sudden gonna, but maybe we're wrong about that, and I hope we are. I've now seen dozens of real videos where Biden is a mess. Not just stumbling over words, is that we've said 1,000 times, including this video several times, people stumble, especially when they're not on prompter. We're never on prompter, it's normal, right? But when you start forgetting obvious things like Super Tuesday, which state you're in, if it's your wife or your sister, and then you get super irritable, there's a lot of things there that cause concern, and it doesn't matter. What's done is done. The primary's not over, but it might be over in a week. And then good luck to Biden and everyone else, because we really need them to win. But don't say we didn't warn you.
All right, enough about the Democratic primaries. I'm gonna lose my mind. Let's talk about Jeff Sessions, because we have another opportunity to make fun of him, and that's always fun, right? Okay, gotta take your wins when you can get them. So. Donald Trump keeps beating up his former Attorney General, Jeff Sessions. And this is an important story to pay close attention to because Jeff Sessions wants to win back his Senate seat in Alabama. So he was up against a bunch of Republicans, and then now he has made it to the runoff election, okay? It's between him and Tommy Tuberville, who was a football coach in Alabama. He was hoping that Trump would stay out of this, but Trump has not stayed out of it. In fact, let me give you the details of what's happening now with the updates to this race. Tommy had a terrific, I'm sorry, Brett, hold on one second, please. Okay, so let me give you an update on what's happening right now. I messed up this story a million times already.
Why, you wanna read the Trump
No,
tweet?
I'm just all over the place, sorry, I'm trying to think. All right, so Donald Trump keeps beating up Jeff Sessions, his former Attorney General, because Jeff Sessions, of course, recused himself in the Russia investigation. Trump is incredibly bitter about that. Now, Jeff Sessions is trying to win back his seat in Alabama. That's his Senate seat, which he gave up in order to work for Trump in his administration. Now there's a bunch of drama going on in this runoff election. Trump is getting involved, and that means we're up for another episode of As the White House Turns.
Made some very big mistakes. I asked for his resignation.
I'm disappointed in the Attorney General.
So in the runoff election, it's up against Tommy Tuberville, who is a former Alabama coach. Actually, yes, a former Alabama football coach, and now Jeff Sessions. And Trump has decided, I am gonna get involved. He recently tweeted this. Tommy was a terrific head football coach at Auburn University. He is a real leader who will never let the MAGA CAG of our country down. Tommy will protect your Second Amendment, which is under siege.
Really?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. By the way, so would Jeff Sessions. Is strong on crime and the border and truly loves our military and our vets. He will be a great senator for the people of Alabama. Coach Tommy Tuberville, a winner, has my complete and total endorsement. I love Alabama. Okay. So Sessions did respond to this by kissing Trump's ass, believe it or not.
So sad.
I know, but it's so delicious.
Yeah, Tommy Tuberville, of course, former coach of Auburn and former cartoon character on Cartoon Channel, obviously.
On what?
Cartoon Channel. I'm kidding. He's not, but he sounds Tommy Tuberville. How is that not a character in a Cartoon Network?
Okay, so let me give you Jeff Sessions' tweet. I'm one of the architects of the Trump agenda. I've always supported it and always will. Nothing the president can do will deter me from supporting this agenda because my principles, just like my faith, are fundamental to who I am and immovable.
He then added, I will always love you.
Oh my God. So, by the way, I also want to draw attention to a video of Jeff Sessions in November of 2019. Again, this is after Trump viciously attacked him for recusing himself. He's trying to win back that Senate seat. Here he is trying to make his case.
That he would support your candidacy.
Well, I hope so. I'm certainly going to hope that will happen. And he said that he's not going to attack me in the race.
Once he found out he didn't get the endorsement, he said, it's not right, but it's okay. I'm gonna make it anyway. I don't know why it's Whitney Houston Day at the Young Turks.
Pack your bags up and leave. Rather be alone and unhappy. Yeah, I forgot about that song.
That's right.
That was a good one.
You said there were 6 people, but there was only 2 people that ate. I don't get it. Yes, I have it on my iTunes. Anyway.
Of course you do.
So look, this is wonderful because it shows you that the so-called tough guy Republicans are little sniveling lackeys. I mean, how many times does a guy have to slap you across the face? That reminds me of the old clip of Dr. David D. Schultz slapping John Stossel and saying, that's an open-handed slap, boy. You gonna do something about it? And Stossel, of course, runs away. Now, that's a terrible story. You shouldn't have slapped Stossel. But that's basically what Trump is doing rhetorically to Jeff Sessions. And Jeff Sessions is scrambling on the ground like, oh, please don't hit me. I still love you. I still love you. And it also shows you what a monster Trump is. Jeff Sessions risked his career to be the first senator to back Donald Trump when no one else would. And apparently that was not loyal enough because later when he did not cover up Donald Trump's crimes for fear of himself going to prison, etc., Trump was like, how dare you? I hired you not to be Attorney General of the United States, but to be a lawyer that protects me and me only. You dummy, what did you think I was, a principled person? Right now, Sessions knows all that. And then he kisses Trump's ass anyway.
I love it, I love it, I love it so much. Okay, so Jeff Sessions is like Gollum in 2 ways, okay? First and foremost, just as unattractive. Secondly, obsessed with power.
First and foremost.
No, I know, I'm joking. Not about the unattractive part, but not first and foremost. First and foremost, Jeff Sessions is obsessed with power, right? God.
He even looks like Gollum there.
No, but that's what I'm saying. It's amazing. So the reason why I bring that up is because Jeff Sessions is approximately 135 years old. And I'm sure is well-to-do, is not, going broke anytime soon, can retire at this very moment, right? Sip a pina colada in, I don't know, anywhere you want, right? Go to the Dominican Republic, enjoy, right? Go to Hawaii, enjoy, live your life. Instead, he's being humiliated by the President of the United States because he wants that power back, right? He wants to win that Senate seat back. Why? Oh my God, I don't understand people who have FU money and they don't use their FU money to tell people F you, right? Why are you not doing that? If Donald Trump were going out of his way to humiliate me, I'd be like, you know what? Here's what I think about my Senate seat now. I don't care anymore. Here's what I'm gonna do, right? I'm gonna go off and I'm gonna do it aggressively. And then after that, I'm gonna book my flight to wherever, to some tropical island somewhere, sip my drinks and enjoy my life. I don't know why he's not doing that. Why are you so obsessed with power? Move on with your life.
Or you could be a man. And so here's what I mean by that.
That's what a man would do.
Yeah, no, I think I can do it one better. Let's see. Hey, don't woman-splain to me what a man would do.
I apologize.
Okay, so I'd say, look, guys, my principles are deeply conservative. Here's what I believe, and it does match up with a lot of what Trump says. But I want you to understand something. I'm my own man, and so I'm not going to go around trying to convince you that I'm going to kiss Donald Trump's ass. I'm not, and so I'm my own man. And if I need to defy Donald Trump, I will. If I agree with him, then I'll agree with him. And I won't do it out of personal pique. I'll do it because that's what I actually believe. Now, if you wanna vote for a cowardly, sniveling ass kisser like Tommy Tuberville, you could go ahead and vote that way, or you could just turn into the Cartoon Network where he's on every morning, okay?
Yep.
Or you could vote for a real man like me, and I believe that's what the people of Alabama want.
You know what? Okay, I like that. So here's the strategy, okay? Let's try that out. By the way, I hate Jeff Sessions. I hope he loses, and I hope that we have a Democrat in that Senate seat. Right?
Of course.
But let's
whoever's
say
worse against Doug Jones would be great.
Yes, exactly. But if I actually cared and wanted him to win that seat back, yeah, you could deploy that plan, number one. And then number two, I mean, it's a win-win situation, right? You get to go off, you go after the cartoon character aggressively, and it's fun. And then if that doesn't work, you're still rich and you're old as hell. So retire and move on with your life.
Yeah, plan B is Hawaii. Okay, yeah. But first have fun, try plan A. So like me, I never had a chance. The press doesn't pay attention to me. If you're Jeff Sessions, the press is all over you because of your relationship with Donald Trump. You can say anything you want. When you do have the press's attention, your big plan was,
oh,
God,
sad.
that's wonderfully
so
sad. That picture of him as Gollum, I forgot, of course, Gollum was originally a hobbit, and hence the ears that Sessions has. Okay, so he's like,
my analysis is on point.
No, you nailed it. He's like, I just want to get back to the Shire with the ring. Precious, precious. Go ahead, Jeff. Keep humiliating yourself. We're having a lot of fun here.
We gotta take a break. So let's do that. Let's do that.
TYT.com/go. We'll be right back. Thanks for listening to the full episode of the Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk, and I'll see you soon.